doesn't float. Not always. Sometimes it sinks to the pit of my stomach, struggling with every minute to rise even a little off the seafloor of my soul. Hope sticks like taffy, melting over gaping old wounds. And how did I even get here? As hope used to appear to me dimly, like a reflection in a faraway mirror, like an old friend I hadn't met yet, that I'd heard so much about, like a celebrity with promise on my TV screen, but no real translation in my actual life. Some days it felt like hope stayed a while, settled in, set up camp, as if preparing to go to war with yet another wave of certain storm or uncertainty. Some days it seemed like hope left, like the hands on the clock spun circles with no reason or rhyme, one day after the other, shut behind doors, hands grasping at new ways to waste my time. I stood isolated in a crowd with thoughts that resembled too much of the same. Masked behind a smile, praying no one could read my eyes. It seemed that hope moved away with no notice and no note, gone to some undisclosed location with no real way of returning. And when that happened, it was easy to believe that hope was simply a word. But then I'd remember how I discovered hope. You see, I know what hope smells like. I know the strength of rising from the floor and staying up, of lifted heads and straightened shoulders, of letting the spark of faith flick at my fingertips and fill up even the vast bowl of questions in my mind until it overflows. No need to understand everything and figure everything out. Just be. Just me. You see, I've learned that sometimes hope does float. And if I let it, man, does it float. It rises and rises and keeps rising until it brushes the fingertips of the horizon of heaven. And with it, I rise too and keep rising, holding on to every moment as if it's the last. But it's not the last. This is not the end or even the beginning. This is the here and now. This is today. And while it is still today, because of him who made today, I do have hope. We do have hope. We claim hope. We remember hope. We hold on to hope. Because even on the days it doesn't feel like it's floating in us, hope lives. It moves and breathes and has its being. So as we hold on to hope, don't be surprised if your feet stop touching the ground. Yeah. Thank you.
Is this how we do it?
Right.
Exactly.
And my toes are snapping too. If I could throw a shoe, I would throw it at you.
Good.
I have goosebumps myself.
Oh, good. Yay. That's awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. That just touched my heart in so many ways this morning. So thank you so much. So we are going to now hear from Nancy Spangler. Welcome, Nancy. Now, for those of you that don't know, Dr. Nancy Spangler, she has a PhD, OTL, please forgive me if I jumbled that up. She is a consultant, a trainer, a speaker, executive coach, and a writer. She's president of the Spangler Associates, or she's been that president since 1994. She's helped many, many organizations look broadly at the multiple systems that support individual and organizational health and resilience. So thank you very much, Dr. Spangler, for joining us today.
It is totally my pleasure. Thank you for having me. And thank you, Dacia, for all the work that you have put into forming Gateway of Hope. I love the name. And I loved Raven's poem, Hope Floats. I would like to start. So I have some slides to share with you. And Natalie, I think I can go ahead and just share my screen. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Very good.
So you can see my screen, but I'm not on slideshow.
It's okay. Oh,
There we go.
there you go.
So I often share a little bit more about my background. The OTR-L stands for occupational therapy. So I began my career as an occupational therapist, and I worked in all the different areas you can in OT, in pediatrics, in rehab, and psychiatry. And in the psychiatry part, that's where I first got my experience around stress management. This was at Research Medical Center way back in 1979. And we were one of the first to incorporate stress management with pain management in the country. So that has always been kind of in the back of my mind. From there, I went back east to Boston to go to graduate school the first time in OT, but I found a part-time job to help pay for my apartment, and it was in workplace health promotion. I was so intrigued with this idea of preventing heart attacks, preventing cancer, preventing stress-related trauma. And so I thought, well, I'm going to stick with that. Forget grad school. I'm going to go with this consulting opportunity. So that was my first foray into consulting. I ended up coming back to Kansas City and worked for 10 years for St. Luke's Health System in workplace health promotion. And what I found was when I went into each workplace, there was a unique personality, a unique culture in every workplace. And I could tell from the get-go, just by the way the person at the front desk greeted me, what the climate was in that workplace, or who the first contact brought into the meeting, the ways that managers talked about mental health in particular, but also other kinds of health. And I became very intrigued with that. So I went back to school. I started my own business in '94, and I've been a consultant ever since. But I went back and got my PhD in therapeutic science so I could really look at what influences individual change, what influences organizational and workplace change, and what is this role of resilience in all this? My OT background always had me intrigued with neuroscience. So the brain research around what helps people change, what helps organizations be effective was just really intriguing to me. So I like to mention this because I never could have imagined this from the get-go, but hope drove me. Hope floated with me. Someone in my family has a quote from some sports coach or something that says, hope is not a strategy. But you know what? It's a pretty darn good motivator. And if you don't have hope, what you have is depression. So I believe that hope and God drove me from one point to another throughout my career. So if you feel frustrated with where you are today, know that hope does float. And if you listen to your inner heart and to a spirit that moves you forward in some way, you will find your own path. And I feel like my background was unique, and I feel blessed to have gone through what I went through to get there. So I like to start with intention. And if any of you are yoga fans, you know what I mean. You start your session with an intention of where you're going to focus. So today we're going to focus on brain circuits. What's autopilot versus intentional brain circuits? We're going to talk about a number of skill sets for resilience. And then we're going to talk about how do you make a personal plan? What's the role of connectedness, and what is the role of habits with resilience? Before we do that, what is resilience? Because that's our goal here for the next 3 days, is to find resilience. And basically it is all of these things. So it's, as Raven said, it's lifted heads and straightened shoulders. It is an ability to come back. It's an adaptive capacity, an ability to bounce back, to bend rather than break, and to grow in your body and in your life. So I love that definition of resilience. we all had some experiences with COVID that probably set us back a little bit in our resilience, honestly, right? So these were some images that came to me, and I thought, let's think about this. You know, you may have seen some people who were just totally panicked or really freaking out over the whole thing. You may have seen a homeless person who just was at the end. You may have felt some of these things yourself. You may have felt like you were pasting on a smile at times just to keep going. You may have felt isolated, or you may know someone who was terribly isolated. And then the silver lining could be you may have experienced some time together with a loved one that you wouldn't have otherwise. So this past year has affected so many people in so many different ways. One of the companies that I like to promote is the OG Emotion Life Lab. And they have a mood meter, which I'll show you later when we talk about emotions more specifically. But what they did before COVID was to do a survey. What are the emotions that people are feeling most regularly? And that's this on the left. So we see that hopefulness was right up there as one of the top ones, and optimistic. After COVID hit, hopefulness was still there at about the same level, which I think is pretty remarkable. And optimism was still there, although smaller. Confusion, exhaustion, and anxiety came in. Other surveys and data suggested that anxiety did increase. It has increased. It has stayed high. And depression has as well. This is a slide that I've used for years. I was part of the community initiative on depression in Kansas City about 15, 20 years ago. And we discovered some interesting things about depression that we didn't know. So depression is the leading cause of disability. It has been a major impact on functional abilities, like your daily routines, your ability to work. And it is serious for many people. This was going on well before COVID hit. So since COVID has hit, it makes us really pause to think, how are we addressing depression? How can we do a better job? So I want you to just think for a minute, how were your emotions and your mental well-being affected by the shutdown? What did some of those images bring to mind for you? And what were some of the silver linings? How did you cope with the impact, the emotions that you had that were brought on by COVID? Part of it was probably stress, I'm guessing, because it was for me. Just trying to cope with the demands that we had. And Hans Selye, back in the 1950s, he was a physiologist, and he researched what happens in the body when there is any demand placed on it. And that was what he termed stress. Now, he made it specific that when it's bad stuff, it's distress. And when we have an emotional negative state because we view something as harmful or beyond, demands beyond what we can cope with, that is distress. So, there's all kinds of research that suggests that distress can be really bad for us. And it can contribute, along with trauma, to things like sleep disturbance. And that's the biggie for me. When I'm not sleeping well, I know there's something going on. What is it? And in COVID, I would wake up and just go, oh, is this a dream? Is this just a bad dream? And so I had to really get my resilience skills going. It can also result in pain complexes, so chronic pain. It contributes to cardiovascular disease because of the inflammatory process that it creates, diabetes, autoimmune disorders, even cancer. And of course, it triggers depression and anxiety, and very frequently substance abuse, which we have also seen increase because of COVID. So I mentioned in the beginning, we wanted to talk about automatic brain circuits. Thankfully, we have this system because it enables us to make responses automatically when there's something dangerous. So this little part right here in the middle of the brain is called the amygdala. We actually have two of them on either side of the brain, and it triggers adrenaline. It triggers a lot of other chemicals and hormones in your body to allow you to fight, flight, or freeze. So that you're, like a rabbit running across the yard. It will freeze so that you don't notice it any longer. Or you turn and run away. So you need to be able to do that automatically. You don't want to have to, if there's a snake slithering in front of you, you don't want to have to go, what is that? That's familiar. You don't want to have to think about your response. You just want to jump out of the way. So thankfully, we have this response. Now up here, you notice that I say it creates automatic approach avoid reactions. This fight, flight, or freeze is what we think of as the avoid. But actually, we now know through a lot of neurological research that it also helps us when we want to approach something that could be good for us. I mean, think about a job opportunity that comes up, in a meeting, and you're thinking, oh, I want to put my name in for that. Or think about you're on the highway. I was on the highway going to Lawrence to visit my dad this week, and there was a backup in front of me. I saw there was an accident or something, and there was an exit ramp, and my automatic brain just made me do that. It wasn't like I thought, I wonder if I should get off here. I just went, whoop. So that's an opportunity that I had to avoid something bad. But it was an approach response. It was a way to take charge, to do something, and to cope. It may be food. Like we were programmed to remember where those berries were. And the next time we go out and do our berry gathering or do our hunting for a deer, that was where it happened. So we want to remember that. So this part of our brain helps us with the automatic as well as memories that let us respond automatically again in the future. It may be a mate. Like think of a party when you were young and somebody walks in who's attractive and you start feeling flirtatious. That is an automatic approach response, and our brain just goes there. And you think later, gosh, what was I doing there? It's like, bingo, there's the opportunity. So thankfully we have that automatic system. However, sometimes we don't want to do that. And, like stepping on the gas pedal is the automatic zoom, but sometimes it's not appropriate, right? So how do we balance this approach avoid? And what do we do with the opportunities that we have? So stress is not all bad. Even when we have things that we want to avoid, if we continue with them and rise to the challenge, we often feel a euphoria, a positive adaptation to that demand or challenge after it's over with, when we're in recovery period. And we can feel like, oh my gosh, I did it. Wow, hooray. Or we did it. So it's really a nice thing to reflect on with your team when you've adapted to something that was really hard, and to acknowledge what it took to get through that. So that savoring of accomplishments can really help our brain, and it helps us to adapt in the future to challenges that we want to go towards again. So it's kind of like this. Each time we are stressed and it feels negative and our functional abilities decline, we feel kind of bad. And yet when we recover, we go above the baseline. And each time we try, we get a little bit better at adaptation. We grow a little more. We cope better, as long as the demands are not so excessive that we can't possibly cope. But the more we learn about coping, the better able we are to rise above our baseline. And it actually fuels neuroplasticity in your brain. So it's strengthening resilience pathways so that each time you're a little bit better at coping. So think about that too. What has felt challenging to you? And if you want, you can share some of these things on the chat if you'd like to. And Natalie, if you're able to kind of track that, I can't see the chat right now, but
Okay, got it.
what were some of the silver linings that you had from COVID, or like what are some of the challenges you had that you coped with well? Like I think about when I went back to graduate school the first time back east, and I dropped out for this job. There was part of me that was disappointed in myself that I couldn't keep it all together to do it all at once. And when I moved back here, I had to start all over again, like 3 semesters down the drain. But the silver lining was I then felt more directed towards what my life path really was, where I really needed to go. So silver linings for you, what have those been? How have they encouraged you? How did you rise above a really difficult life challenge? Now, resilience may come naturally to some, and some researchers think that it's kind of a thing you're born with or a thing that you get used to. And it may have to do with hope and optimism, a sense of humor, being able to express emotions, meaning and purpose, reliance on yourself, problem solving, and being able to self-replenish after you have some recovery time. So it does help create this sense of, okay, I got this. But does it necessarily come naturally, or can we hone it? I believe we can hone it. And I think it comes from 3 primary skill areas. If you have been in counseling before and you've had cognitive behavior therapy, it's the same 3 skill sets. So it's partly, what are your actions? What is it that you're doing? What are the behaviors? What are you thinking? And then what emotions are you feeling? And are you aware of how these play in together, how they influence one another? And what autonomy do you have over these 3 different areas to build your resilience? So I really love the work of Dan Kahneman. He wrote a book, Thinking Fast and Slow. There have been other researchers who have named these systems different things, but Dan Kahneman names them System 1 and System 2. So the system that I just talked about, the automatic brain, it's reflexive, it's fast, it's intuitive, it's spontaneous, and it's great that we have it. But sometimes it gets us in trouble. And we do have another system that's more intentional. So when we slow things down, when we don't feel like we need to fight, flight, freeze, or seize, we can do things that are reflective, that are conscious, slower, more rational, more intentional. So rather than that primitive part in the middle of our brain, it's the cortex. It's the part of our brain, the prefrontal cortex, that allows us to have executive decision making. I believe, however, and I've added System 3 myself, because sometimes it's hard to get out of that reflexive system and allow your more intentional system to plug in, to set goals, to achieve goals. But if we are observant and non-judgmental of ourselves, if we're compassionate with ourselves, if we practice mindfulness and just observe ourselves, our situations, and if we can pull that in, I think we can access this more intentional part of our brain more easily. So what is mindfulness? It's one of the interventions, just one, but I believe the primary intervention for building self-care and supporting our own resilience. So I have it at the top, and Robin Todd is going to present on Friday night at 7. So grab a cup of tea or a little glass of wine or a water bottle and join Robin at 7, and she'll give you some more information about mindfulness. I love her approach to it because it isn't just about the 45 minutes of sitting and practicing mindfulness meditation. It's deeper than that. But there are other micro skills that you can practice as well. So therapeutic writing and journaling can go a long way. It's accessing a part of your brain, slowing things down and allowing you to reflect on your conscious thinking. Reframing automatic thoughts, labeling and regulating emotions. I'll come back to this. I'm not talking much about exercise and physical activity other than yoga today, but that is one of the best, well-researched approaches to building recovery to stress. So be sure you're building that in as a micro practice. Nutrition, sleep routines, social connectedness and relationship repair, conflict resolution. Those are all skill sets that can really help build your resilience. Having meaningful values-based goals, we'll talk a little bit about that. And then some body posture, smiling, etc. have some emerging research behind them. So let's talk more about mindfulness. Mindfulness has been described as awareness that arises through paying attention on purpose, in the present moment, non-judgmentally. How do you get it? Well, it's a practice in becoming more aware of your thoughts, your emotions, your sensations, the situations, your own actions. It's just a way of being aware that you're more aware. You do grow your mindfulness by sitting quietly and just observing your breathing, your sensations, and the thoughts that come in as you're trying to quiet your mind and quiet your body. But it's also something that when you start becoming aware of yourself, you become much more aware of others, you become aware of your environment and the interaction between those areas. So aware of being aware. And we can practice mindfulness in many moments, little micro moments, micro practices. And you can attend to your breath anytime, any place. You can do it intentionally by sitting and practicing it, but you can do it while you're standing in line at the grocery store or waiting in traffic. Those kinds of ways of plugging mindfulness in when it would be helpful become skill sets for resilience. You can do it sitting, you can do it walking and moving, you can do it while you're eating and savoring the sight and smells and textures and tastes of food. You can do it while you're looking at nature, a mountain. I have a very favorite spot that I think of when I'm being mindful. You can do it while you're washing dishes. And Thich Nhat Hanh, a Vietnamese promoter of mindfulness, is a very big proponent of that. You know, when COVID hit, my dishwasher went out. And I didn't want to have a repairman come in and fix my dishwasher. So I just mindfully practice washing my dishes slowly by hand. And it also comes when you're being with others. So mindful practices are techniques, exercises, strategies, routines, and habits, things that we can build. And it builds awareness. Sometimes, though, when our automatic reactions are so fired up, it's really hard to do that, to just sit and be aware. So I also like to promote the vagus nerve practices that help our autonomic nervous system slow down that fight, flight, or freeze response. So this is called the vagal break. It's a big nerve that goes all the way down here and innervates lots of things in your throat, your facial expressions, your heart, your lungs, and your stomach. The biggest connections are in your stomach. And then it goes back up. So that gut reaction is what informs your brain by an autonomic feedback system that something's wrong. But when we bring the vagal nerve in, it allows us to rest and digest and calm down. Those facial expressions allow us, particularly women, to tend and befriend others when we're feeling distressed. So that's why women are so good at our social connectedness. And it is automatic and immediate, the approach avoid, but the repair part takes a little more time. So when we do it, it turns on a hormone called oxytocin, and that helps us build trust and trusting relationships through our facial expressions and our vocalizations. So one way to practice it is an extended exhale. And sometimes I just do a big extended exhale, but for learning it, it's a little easier if you know, okay, how long is this going to be? No, that makes me nervous. So I just have this little exercise for us to do. Basically, we're going to inhale for 4 counts. Breathe in, and then I want you to exhale for 6 counts. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Now exhale, 8. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 4, 2, 3, 4. And exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. And exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, and exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, and exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, and exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, and exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and just take a relaxed breath. So it's a very simple way of pulling in your vagus nerve and immediately getting a brief relaxation response. And if you have any trouble with mindfulness meditation, it's sometimes helpful to do this first, just to slow your system down and to begin relaxing immediately so that you can participate in the mindfulness without feeling anxious. So if you have any reactions to that, let me know. I mentioned the mood meter, and this is something that the OG Emotion Life Lab teaches in their programs. It basically is a way of looking at, are you in a high energy state or a low energy state? And is it not very pleasant, these two, or is it pleasant? So as you notice, there are names for emotions. The higher energy and the more pleasant it is, it's up here. So feeling inspired, elated, optimistic, excited, those are things we aim for, but we can't always stay in that high energy state. So sometimes we want to feel comfy, carefree, blessed, peaceful, serene. And these are the areas that we want to stay out of. During COVID, I would find I was waking up and feeling anxious. Like, is this the bad dream I was thinking of? And I would say to myself, okay, what is the emotion I'm feeling? Which quadrant am I in? Which quadrant would I like to be in? So in that case, I wanted to be comfy, cozy, and serene. How am I going to get there? So I would use that extended exhale breathing to calm myself down. And then to just notice my environment, notice my breathing, notice my sensations through a mindfulness break. Some ways of looking at our positive reframing. And our reflexive brain circuits are really important to know about, but we also need to understand that we have thoughts that come through those reframings. So things like, I really messed up, I'm a loser, life sucks. It's kind of like a toxic selfie. And what we're looking for is to reframe it to something that's a little more self-compassionate, like, okay, that wasn't my best, but hey, I can work on it, I can do better. And sometimes it's setting different goals and developing self-mastery. So one of my
Classic Zoom challenge, right, Dr. Nancy? While Dr. Nancy is making sure that her laptop is plugged in, we have in the chat, Natalie is asking how you're feeling and what are some of the emotions. Dr. Nancy, I would love for us to get a copy, if you are willing, of that emotions chart, because I think one of the things that we need to improve is our emotional vocabulary. And when we can put a name on how we're feeling, especially if we have that chart and we can think about how we want to move to a different area of our, oh, looks like we lost Dr. Nancy, but she'll be back on. But if we can think about how we want to move to a different area, that is a really great idea. So what are your thoughts, Natalie?
Well, I absolutely just love this. There was so much good information. And as I typed in the chat earlier, through every season, it requires a different tool. And I feel like just for me personally, God equips me through different things like this for each season, whether it's expected or not expected. So these things that she has just shared are just amazing. So I hope that everyone is taking little bits and pieces and figuring out what tool is right for your season, because you may not know it, but Dr. Spangler has been blessed with a gift, and she's being used as a tool to help us. So you all have a gift now that's being shared with you. So sit back, open it up like a Christmas time.
Yeah,
and enjoy it all.
Absolutely. I have never, I'm a licensed professional counselor. I know much of what Dr. Spangler is talking about, but I love how she communicates. But I have not done the deep breathing, the exhale, the extended exhale before. Yes. And I found myself really digging deep to exhale for 12 seconds. How did you experience that? It was good though. I liked it.
I loved it. I do just a small port, just 2 cycles of breathing, but just holding in. And I'll do that in my seminars to just start it off. But the way that you did it, I felt just such a presence of peace in doing it, and just light. It felt light. It was just amazing. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah. All right. So Dr. Spangler is.
Hi, I'm back. I have no idea what happened. Technology.
Technology. That's what happened. My pastor says the devil is in technology. So
yes.
He's not going to stop.
Let's go back to that one slide. I'm glad to hear that the breathing was effective. I find that to be a really great just plug in, and it's so simple and concrete. I think it helps to bridge sometimes when people find the meditation part intimidating, or they have a belief system, for some reason it doesn't, just appeal to them. The deep breathing and doing it in a concrete way like that seems to help. So I have found it to be helpful. So I'm going to go back to sharing screen. And back to slideshow. Okay, here we go. So if then intentions has a nice research background. So when you think about your life and you think, gosh, I've gone down some rabbit holes, or I feel disappointed, I don't feel hopeful. The if-then intentions can help you find the patterns in your life that maybe have been influenced by your automatic brain circuits. So maybe you did things that were less choiceful, less intentional, and more automatic. Your if-then intentions help you look at, well, what's most important to me? What do I really value? Maybe I value self-respect. Maybe I value respect for others. Maybe it's kindness. Maybe it's being trustworthy, coming through on my word. And if that's the case and you find yourself not doing that, being vigilant to those patterns and recognizing them, not to the point of anxiety, but to the point of empowerment. What it is that can help you live out those values in a better way are if-then intentions. So be prepared. If there is an emotion that you tend to feel under certain circumstances, know to expect the expected. And if I start to feel that, then have a strategy. For me, sometimes it's get up and take a walk. If I find myself irritated in some way, so like if a coworker says something frequently that is just gets under your skin, then have a strategy. I will take those deep breaths. I will do 4 in and exhale 8. And I'll do that before I respond to that person. So having these if-then intentions and writing them down in a journal can be really helpful. It helps you see the patterns. It helps you look at what the values are that are most important to you and why, and then to live out those values with an intentional practice. So that can be really helpful. And then there's some emerging research on body postures. So I don't, if anybody watched Amy Cuddy's YouTube, she has been criticized. She was the one who found that postures like this or power woman postures helped people in job interviews. And others were not able to replicate her findings. But what she did was went back and said, I believe that these postures help a person find their presence, and it can empower a person. And in my own coaching and advising, I have found that to be the case. So I also want to share personally. So these are pictures of family members. This was my dad on the KU Big 7 baseball team. And I absolutely love his smile there. These are my kids. They're now adults. And when I was getting my PhD and writing my dissertation, I would feel at times like, what am I doing? Am I ever going to get this done? This position inspired me to keep going. And if you notice in back of me, that picture is right there on my desk. So it was what got me through. And I do find that these postures, just do it right now, help. I also remember that when I was working with people who were seriously and persistently depressed, they would come into Research Medical Center, to the inpatient clinic, and they would be like this. Their shoulders were slumped forward, their head was facing down. And over the weeks of inpatient treatment, they became more erect. They became more animated in their expressions. So I'd like to encourage you to think of this as a way to savor the moments that are good and reinforce those positive pathways, those circuits in your brain. But also, you can practice these postures intentionally. And I love this, looking out over my favorite spot on the mountain and thinking about intentionally bringing up some of those positive emotions. So anxiety and depression are not things that we need to feel a sense of blame, self-blame about, but we also can learn these micro skill sets that help us get past it, at least for that moment. And the more times we do them, the more we reinforce those positive brain circuits and downplay the negative brain circuits. So think about the postures that you can include for you and how they make you feel. So it helps you be who you intend to be. Intentional postures and facial expressions to be who you intend to be. Now, sometimes these micro practices and self-care just are not enough. So I want you to know that I strongly support recognizing when it's not working and when it would be helpful to get the support and care, and particularly to use the resources of Gateway of Hope, to connect with others that help you reinforce these skills as habits, and to enjoy the compassionate conversations that you can have with a caring person who has the skill sets to help you get past it, and to reinforce these as habits. So I love calling them micro skills. Robin Todd calls them micro skills. They are small moments of a skill, a resilient skill. And the more we do them, the more we plug them in to moments of our life, the more they become habits. So I'd like for you to think about this. How can you use intentions, repetition, support to let these skills become habits? Which of these skills might you work on and choose one. I mean, if you walk away from this 3-day set of presentations and take just a couple of things and actually put them into practice in your life will be better. How can you build in some of these micro moments? Who is there that can help you reinforce these skills? Is it a professional? Is it a family member, a friend? Is it the person in your journal, the other part of you that you're writing to? And who will you ask? How will you ask for that help? So I loved what Raven said about hope, that in all of this, it's not the end or the beginning. I loved that. Claim your hope. Find these micro skills that you can use at a time of day that works for you. For example, one of the things that I do in the morning, I do the dishes at night and I leave them on a drying rack. And in the morning, I put those away. That's a trigger for me to practice the if-then intentions. Another trigger moment for me is in the shower. I shower every day. Why not take advantage of that moment? And I will do some of that extended exhale breathing, a little mindful scan of my sensations, and I will do a self-compassion and compassion for others meditation. And I've included a link to that in my resources because that just helps me start the day feeling like give yourself a break, give others a break, give the world a break. Let's all be in this together. So here are some resources for you. And Dacia, will we provide access to our slides so that people can print this off?
Yes,
Okay.
so if you email the slides to Alicia, we will have them on our website, gwhope.org. Great.
And I look forward to all of the other speakers, and I encourage you all to tune in and go for the phone-a-thon and keep Gateway in your hearts and in your prayers. Questions? Comments?
Excellent, excellent, excellent.
That was wonderful, Dr. Spangler. I have so many notes here.
Okay. Oh, good. I'm glad.
We just appreciate you sharing all that you've shared with it. There were so many important points, in there, and just the intentional posturing, looking at that, and those are things that maybe we've been exposed to, but really haven't thought about. So it was nice to just have that, brought up, but things that were unknown, like talking about the vagus nerve is it activia? And how all of those things work, but just to have that put into our space to think about, to have that thought, what am I doing on a daily basis? What am I putting in my gut that might impact all of these things? All of these things, it all works together. So thank you.
It does. It's all connected.
All of the powerful, information that you shared with us.
You bet. And if I can also say that if you are part of a workplace and you would like for your workplace to talk more about mental health and resilience building, I encourage you to talk with your leaders. Try and bring leaders together just to have conversations. I mentioned the Community Initiative on Depression. We brought together people and shared what resources were available at that particular company. But we also just gave an opportunity for people to talk. And I was amazed, we couldn't have staged it better, had people planted to talk in this way, but people just came forth and shared that they had struggled with depression in the past and they had used those resources. And it was really effective. Laura, did you want to share something? Oh, Laura was waving goodbye.
Yeah.
Oh.
Jump off.
That's okay. I must say that I am so thankful and grateful that Gateway of Hope is providing this, symposium here to just help women, to, empower women. And this is only the first day. Oh my goodness. And it's the first hour, the first day. So this organization is such a blessing to so many, women.
Yes, absolutely. So I want to, before we start with the next part of our program in terms of helping you to consider supporting Gateway of Hope, I do want to open it up if anybody has a question or a comment. If you want to put it in the chat, and Natalie can unmute you, or I can unmute you, because I think this was Dr. Spangler, this was outstanding. I told y'all to get paper and pen, right? I told you, because there's always something. See, Sharon, I saw your pen. There's always something. God always has something for you. And no matter how educated you are, you can always learn something from somebody else. So does anybody want to share or have any comments before we go on to the next thing?
I'd be curious to know, so the breathing was something that resonated with people. Was there anything else that was sort of like I hadn't thought of that as a resilience builder? Just type it in the chat box, or just unmute yourself and chat. There are few enough of us. We can just use a chat.
I was just going to say the nerve that you were talking about that goes in your stomach, and how it's regulating, and how we always hear the gut, you make a gut decision, but also realizing the process and taking care of that all, and the breathing and how to find that calmness really, I think, helps me, but having language for it. And I think it helps me to understand the reasons why breathing is so important when you start to feel overwhelmed or stressed, because everything's connected. It's not just one part of your brain, but it's a lot of your body responding. And so to me, I really resonated with that, and your comment about aware of being aware. And I think that's a really good tool for me, just in moving forward and in situations or hard decisions, is being aware. And so you're incorporating that breathing. So all of the oxygen and things I need to get through can reach all those important places. So for me, that's what's really powerful.
Thanks, Alicia.
I think for me, the understanding that stress isn't always bad, and how it can actually help bring growth, and even kind of building that coping muscle, which is really cool. I had never thought about it like that. You just assume that all stress is bad.
Right.
So that was really cool for me. And then also, kind of like Alicia said, that I wrote it down, being aware of being aware. I think that's such an intense, it's just such a simple sentence, but such a powerful sentence, little phrase. And so just understanding the purpose of mindfulness. I think I hear, I don't know about we, but I hear mindfulness a lot, and I don't have the vocabulary for it. And now I do, which is really cool. And that, just that awareness, even that I wrote down the definition for awareness that you had up there, which is really, really cool. So I think a lot of this, kind of what everyone's been saying, just giving us the vocabulary for things that we kind of understand or kind of feel, but I have a page and a half of notes. So I just want to say thank you so much.
Great. I took
really
notes from your poem too.
Oh, good. Good. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Excellent. Well, be sure to
the rest of
join
the
us.
symposium.
Yeah, absolutely. So just as a reminder, this is a fundraiser for Gateway of Hope. We want to thank, first of all, one of our major sponsors, a lifesaver sponsor, Laura Mckay Physical Therapy. She specializes in pelvic floor issues, which is a very interesting specialty. But check her out at lauramckay.com, because she is excellent. She loves Gateway of Hope. She loves helping women, and certainly she can be very helpful to you. So again, this is a fundraiser for Gateway of Hope. We would love for you to give us a call at 913-393-4283, or go to our website to donate at gwhope.org. We've got some suggested donations. All of the donations will, 100% of the donations will go to underwrite the services that we provide to women, whether they're life coaching, counseling, or support services. And as Dr. Spangler mentioned in her presentation, if you find that you are not able to manage with some of the tools that you already have, you might need some outside help. And many women, due to this pandemic, have called us. And many frontline workers, teachers, we have an outreach to frontline workers, essential workers, teachers, and we provide very affordable counseling to them. And so we do the fundraising so that we can continue to do that. So we just invite you to be generous and reach out to us during this Women's Symposium to support what we're doing here at Gateway of Hope. And then you can also increase your chances in the raffle, which is going to be next Friday, April the 30th. And we showed some of the prizes that we have. We've got the 8-week kickboxing session. We've got the painting party for 4, and this super cute Kate Spade bag valued at $30. So we just really encourage you to call Gateway of Hope, go to our website, and support us so that we can continue to help women. We work exclusively with women ages 15 and above, and we don't want to turn any woman away because she can't afford it. There was a time when I could not afford therapy, and my therapist allowed me to pay $20, and she normally charged $120. And I would not be here sitting in this seat had I not gotten the help 30 years ago that I needed. And so we're just committed to helping women. If you can pay for services, great. But if you can't, we still want to help you, because women are the heart of the home. And we need to be resilient. We need to help each other, and we need to help ourselves. Right, Dr. Nancy?
That's right. We're all in this together.
We're all in this together. Natalie, you have anything you want to share?
I just want to say that, this is a fundraiser. This has been awesome. So I encourage you all, just think about sponsoring a woman today. Dacia gave, the contact information, the phone number, and the website, but we just had some phenomenal things presented before us today. So I would encourage you all, give us a call at 913-393-4283, or like Dacia mentioned, reach out to us at gwhope.org. And we would love to have your support, and also direct anyone that you may know that needs help to us.
Yes, that's the other thing. If you know a woman in your family, your sister, your daughter, your mother, have them call us, because we can help. Show them our website, gwhope.org, and they can look around, and we've got plenty of providers, great counselors, great life coaches that can help. All right, so that is it for this session. The session was recorded. We will have it available after the symposium is over. Thank you so much for attending, Dr. Nancy. Yay! You did a great job. Appreciate it so much. We'll have those handouts available on our website as soon as we can. And we hope to see you this afternoon. Tell us about the next session, Natalie.
All right, so our next session today, we are actually going to have Miss Cindy Wall that's going to be with us this afternoon. So if you enjoyed this morning, then come on back this afternoon, and it is going to be a fun-packed afternoon. And then later on, we'll have Rachel Keck joining us at the 7 o'clock session. And please share with your friends and family, that person that may not want to get help. Just have them come check us out this afternoon. Go around the horse, and hook that cart up, and everything else will follow. But come on back for it. We'll see you later this afternoon.
So we've got the
This
next session
afternoon
at
is at
noon.
At noon, yes. The
Noon.
next session is at noon. The last session with Rachel is at 7 p.m.
Right, right. So I'll be jumping on at about 11:45. You can jump on early, but we'll at noon and then at 7 p.m. And tomorrow we have 9 a.m., noon, and 7 p.m. So we've got, we also have the digital program on our website, gwhope.org. So go to the website, pull down that digital program, send it to that person, like Natalie said, send it to that person who needs the help but doesn't want to admit it. It's free. If you register today, you can come to the session. You'll get the link and you'll be able to come to the session at noon. So don't delay. We hope to see you then. Okay.
All right.
All right,
Bye,
everybody.
everybody.
Ladies.
Have a great
Bye-bye.
day. Take care.